All right. My dear fellow listeners and viewers, good evening and welcome to another edition of the Dr. Narine Dat Show. For those of you who have just tuned in or are listening to us for the very first time, keep in mind that there are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on the radio dial, that's the radio 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers Digital Cable for those of you who have the Rogers Digital Box. And of course, we are also live streaming our interview here on the Dr. Narine Dat Show. So please take the opportunity to share our page. Just like any other week that we have had in the past, we have another special guest, Brandon. So, Brandon, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good, Narine. How are you doing?
I am doing good. Thanks so much for joining us. So, what we're going to
Absolutely.
do, we want to be mindful of your time. We want to give you, obviously, a little bit of a time to kind of introduce yourself, take the time so that people get to know you a little bit, where you're born and all of those basic pieces. And when you're
Yeah.
done, we are going to dive into things in terms of your professional job, which I'll say, I'll leave that for you, the expert. But to the people who are watching, listening, we will talk about money matter. So you do not want to miss this one. So take it away, introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers.
Awesome. Well, first, I just want to start off by saying, hey, look, I really do appreciate Narine for you having me on. I think it's just absolutely tremendous what you're doing. I think a lot of people get a lot of value from your show, and it's just a privilege to be on here too as well. We actually go way back because I remember, I don't know quite remember. I know you used to do charity organizations, and I used to perform back then for you, and so it's just great to reconnect and hop on your show and kind of provide some value. Yeah, I'm from Canada. My parents are originally from Guyana. I believe my mom is from Port Morant. My dad's from Rose Hall. I don't know if I got those right, but I
Yeah.
think that's where they're from. Burbies, right? That's
Barbies.
yeah, right? Am I right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm Canadian, so I like I'm still
That's
getting to those. So
okay.
but yeah, I grew up in here in Canada. I spent most of my time in Cambridge, which is in Ontario. I'm in the financial space. I work here in Guelph. That's the other the beauty about also this technology, right? Like I think Narayan, you're out in Kitchener, I'm out in Guelph. Just be able to connect with people from all across the globe. I've seen many episodes where you're connecting with people from different countries. I've always been someone that believed in being in business for yourself. And I've always been that type of person. My dad was was pretty successful in the corporate world, and my mom was pretty successful in the mom business, taking care of kids. So, I always grew up in a great household, and I think what's most important today, now more than ever, is just being money conscious. So, kind of really excited to chat a little bit more about that. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's
Well,
just a little about me.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brandon. Very much appreciated. So before we dive into things, I know we
Yeah.
have a lot of followers and people who know about our Caribbean Dreams concert and so forth. And so many
How
of
was
you
it?
would know this, but you will know now, obviously. So Brandon, when he was a little boy, so to speak, we had him on our Caribbean Dreams concert where he did a dance there in his earlier years. So it goes to show that we have been about a long time. We are we have, vast knowledge and we have good set of people in our network, so to speak. So I'm personally very proud of you, Brandon, to see how much you have grown over the years. And I cannot wait to hear, all the important pieces from somebody who knows it inside out. So let me ask you off the bat. I mean, you are in this whole financial business, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've been in it for a long time. You are really good in what you do. There's no question about that. What motivated you? I want to ask you this though. Like, what motivated you to kind of really not only get into it, but to also stick with it? Because anybody can start a business, anybody can
Yeah.
do anything, but to stick with it, that's the hard part. So I want to hear from you. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So, my dad always grew up, I always grew up around my dad, and he's kind of one of the people that I looked up to. So, to get into business for me was always kind of like something that I've always wanted to do because my dad also always explored opportunities outside of his corporate job that he always had. So, I kind of always got that from him. But you know what really kind of introduced me to the financial services space. I used to actually work retail, so I don't have a financial background. I don't have a financial degree or
Mhm.
diploma. I
Mhm.
have certifications now,
Yeah.
but I wasn't ex looking for financial services, so to speak. And my wife and I, you know, we're business like-minded people, and
Mhm.
I think one of the main reasons why I got involved with in the space is because she was kind of familiar with it.
Mhm.
She kind of encouraged me to get into the space, even though I didn't know anything about it. So, and I think whenever you're in business, regardless of whatever business you
Mhm.
are in, there's many businesses that I've tried and I've failed,
Mhm.
and I'm not doing them anymore.
Mhm.
So, you know, sometimes you try things and they don't work out, and sometimes you try things and they end up working out, and this just happened to be the business that's working out. So
Awesome.
that's kind of what drove me to do what we're doing now.
Awesome. You know, you mentioned two key points here, and I want to kind of make sure that I'm verbally underlining those things. You mentioned,
Yeah,
you mentioned about a failure. You and I know that in order for us to be successful in life, we really
yeah,
have to embrace failure. You know, failure is part of success. I want people to know that. It's in my
for
book as
sure.
well, too, right? So
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure you kind of pay attention to that. And based on what you've shared with me, you are a risk taker. And in life, if you are just comfortable doing, what you're doing, that can be a
yeah,
problem. I like the fact that you took risk and you are in a good place right now. So good for you. So,
yeah,
I mean, as you know, and everybody who are watching right now, we live in a different era, right? We live in
mhm,
challenging times. Um,
yeah,
everything is going up, everything is expensive. In fact, today, when my wife came home with grocery, those Corona bar, they used to have like six in a box,
yeah,
so to speak,
it,
and it had only four, right? So, and the box is the
yeah,
same size from the outside, right? All of these
yeah,
tricks people are playing a game with us here. But when it comes to general saving, so let's talk about like retirement saving, and
for sure.
this will apply to obviously not only to people locally here, but
Mhm,
elsewhere as well too. So let's talk about retirement because a lot of times people don't think of that, and by the time you know it, the age catch up to them, right? And that can be a problem. So
yeah.
my question to you, what advice do you have for folks who don't have a retirement plan as we speak, but they're thinking about it?
Well, I would say definitely, you know, put an action plan to start exploring what that plan may look like for you. And I think everybody's in different stages, right? You could be
Mhm.
young, you could be a little older, you could kind of be like in the middle of life. Yeah, and one thing you mentioned to me, like this might be specific to my area, but
Mhm.
one thing I've learned is money is a universal language. So
Yep.
whether you're in the States or you're in Guyana or wherever you are, you can understand that having a money conscious mind could be very beneficial to you. So, what I would say is, you know, one of the biggest things about retiring is a lot of people think that you have to start thinking about it like when you're in the middle of life, and I think that's kind of what we're taught. We're taught, hey, look, you don't have to worry about retirement until later in life, but the foundation of retirement really kind of starts as soon as you start working. You know, as soon as you're in the workforce, as soon as your brain starts thinking of like a goal or a dream or something that you want to achieve or the way you want your life to look like. I think that's when retirement plan actually starts. It doesn't start with, oh, I have to save $20 or $100 a month. It starts with a goal or a dream or the way you kind of want to live your lifestyle. That's what starts the retirement, because you kind of have to end with you have to think with the end in mind, right? So if you want to
Mhm.
live the lifestyle you want to live like at 60 or 65 or
Mhm.
55, well, then you kind of have to backtrack, and that ties into okay, well, how much money do I need to have piled up in order for me to live the lifestyle that I want to live? So, if you're thinking about retirement planning or not thinking about it at all, I highly encourage many people to start thinking about it, because I think it's something that's not taught to us until later in life, and sometimes that's too late. I think for most Canadians, and people in general, they're going through the trial and error method. You know, seeing, hey, you know, maybe I'll try this, or I have lots of time. I'll do it next year. I'll try next year. The number one thing about building wealth, the number one thing is time. The more time you have to build wealth, the more wealthier you'll be. And time is one of the most important things when it comes to creating a lifestyle that you want to live later down in life. So take action. That would be that would be my solution. Definitely take action. Whatever you're thinking about, just do it.
Awesome.
for
And
sure.
to add to it, absolutely good point here. And to add to it, one of the things I live by is whatever I have to do tomorrow, I do it today, and whatever I have
Yeah.
to do today, I do it now. And so, kind of what you said, Brandon, like don't wait, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And so, how can one prepare for retirement when we have inflations, and challenges happening? Is there like a formula for that, or is it recommended for people to do like a review every so often? How does
Yeah.
that work?
That's a great question. If I was thinking about saving money or putting money aside for myself, I would really truly think about things I can control. Unfortunately, we can't control inflation,
Mhm.
and the government says inflation is like 1.6%, but we all know it's not 1.6,
Mhm.
right? So,
Mhm.
with the things that they exclude from the actual inflation rate are not actually there. So the inflation rate could be anywhere from 3 to 6%, really, realistically. But if I'm thinking about saving, but I don't want to save because I'm worried about inflation. Well, I think that's the wrong approach to take. The reason why is because those are things you can't control. So what I would say is, what if you treat your future self or your future family like a bill, like almost like a mortgage payment, right? So like when you have a cell phone bill in the Rhine, like, right, you make
Mhm.
sure that you pay it, right? With Zoom, when Zoom comes up for
Yeah,
renewal, right? You do your shows every Sunday.
yeah,
You're gonna make sure that Zoom is paid, because if Zoom's not
100%.
paid, yeah, right, then you can't, right? You can't go live.
You
Same
got
thing,
it.
yeah, right. So same thing with mortgage,
Yeah,
with your cell phone bill, like all these things that we pay. And we have no problem paying these things whatsoever. But the only thing we don't pay is ourselves. So what
Mhm.
if you start changing your mindset to say, regardless of inflation, I'm still paying my phone bill. Regardless of inflation, I'm still paying my mortgage. I'm still buying groceries. I'm still doing XYZ. The only thing I'm not doing is paying myself first. So what if we just applied that same energy or that same kind of action or idea or thought process with investing for ourselves? And I think it can actually go a long ways if you kind of just imagine, okay, every month my future self bill is due on the first of every month, and then I figure out a budget, right? If you're thinking about getting a new cell phone, or you're thinking about, whatever, you always work with a budget in mind. Well, I can afford $100 for a cell phone, so I'm going to look for something that fits $100. Well, if you're thinking about yourself, you kind of want to do the same thing. So what can I commit to on a monthly basis, to paying myself first? Is it $25? Is it $50? Is it $100? Is it $200? What matters is you start. That's what matters. Don't. You can always work up to a larger number. I think what matters is if you just start and treat yourself like a bill. Truly, I think that would be a benefit.
awesome.
Yeah,
And I know you're in Canada here. So, what are some of the benefits from? I mean, obviously there are benefits to start early, sooner than later.
yeah.
What would you say are some of those benefits?
Of starting earlier.
Yes, oh yes, starting early, like an early age, like not waiting for that midpoint as you mentioned.
Yeah, so if we all know Albert Einstein, right?
Mhm, mhm, yes,
He's a super smart guy, couldn't brush his hair for whatever reason, we don't know why, right? But he's super smart, right? He created a simple way of calculating compound interest. So if you haven't heard about compound interest, look into it. But he created a rule, it's called the rule of 72. I'm not going to go through how it
yeah.
works. You can find that out on YouTube or wherever, but definitely take time, and I encourage you to go look at it on how it actually can work for you. And Albert Einstein actually said that the compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. So, and I can safely say that compound interest is the only eighth wonder I've seen so far. I haven't seen the other seven, but compound interest is one that I've experienced. And why you want to start early is because, the beautiful thing about compound interest is the longer time you're invested, so to speak, or the younger you are when you start, means that you have more time for compound interest to work for you, which means that your money can double a lot quicker, and a lot more rapidly. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've heard this analogy, where people say, "Would you rather have $1 million today or a dollar doubled every day?" right? And
Ooh.
if there's something like that, if you do the math on a lot of people say, well, I'll take the million, I'll take
Mhm.
the million. But if you do the math between a dollar doubling every day, it actually exceeds the million by a lot. So I'm not going to bust out a calculator, but I definitely definitely
Yeah.
believe that it would be a lot larger than that. So the longer the younger you are, the more time you have to invest, and the longer you're investing, the more money you'll have down the road.
Yeah, kind of reminds
Yeah.
me of the instant millionaire scratch.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have a choice to take that $1 million or kind of take it, I guess, piece by
As
piece,
a
so to speak.
Yeah, as a
But
drug.
also, Brandon, I'm not cutting you, but you brought up a good point
Yeah.
here. And so I think people are kind of looking at the overall, the bigger picture. Some
Hmm.
people, you brought up a good point that if the dollar can double up every day, obviously in the long run you get more. But some people probably are also saying to themselves, look, I have this $1 million at hand. I can invest it and use it elsewhere. Is that a possibility where
Yeah.
you're not necessarily interested in the interest per se, but more of maybe utilize that money that you have at hand to do other sort of investment. Does that worth it as well too?
Yeah, for sure. Like, so when we talk about other investments, do you mean like something other than saving, or are you talking
Like
about
maybe
more
like buy
about?
a house and flip it or something. I was kind
Yeah.
of looking at the other
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
big
No,
picture
no.
guy, and I'm a big picture guy. That's how it kind of
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, you can definitely do that. I mean, there's other avenues to create wealth.
Mhm.
By no means am I saying
Mhm.
our path is the only path. And my dad was got into real estate investing. And I think the game plan for most people is it just don't stick to one thing, right? We all heard don't keep all your eggs in one
One
basket, right?
basket.
So you can kind of take that approach, like so if real estate investing is your thing, there's still some benefits to saving money and investing money and parking cash in different avenues or different pathways. Um, but I would never say that your $1 million wouldn't be good in the real estate market. I don't know about Canadian
Yeah,
market,
that
right?
was just
Maybe.
an example. That was
Yeah,
just
yeah, for
that's
sure.
an example. I've been there, done
Great
that. I'm
example.
not going back that route again. I'm,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah.
moving on. So what are some of the financial challenges you are hearing from people as you meet them to put a plan together for their own future?
Well, I think at the end of the day,
Hmm.
I think the biggest challenge right now is either two things. One is having hope, having a plan. I think a lot of people think that they're okay, or just because my neighbor is in the situation, my other neighbor's in the situation, that if we're all in this situation together, then it must be the only way.
Hmm.
The other challenge I would say is that people are realizing that they're not, no matter how much money they save, it
Hmm.
still might not be enough. Which I kind of agree, right? Sometimes you can't save your way to financial independence, but I do believe that anybody in North America, that if I could say that, in North
Hmm.
America could be a millionaire. I truly do believe that. I mean, North America has so many opportunities, wonderful opportunities that anybody can truly do that. Now there's some things that you have to do, and there's some
Hmm.
things that you have to sacrifice, and you have to have some discipline. But I
Hmm.
truly do believe that at least. And now I'm not saying $1 million is all the money in the world, but I am saying that you do have that opportunity if you live in North America easily to do that. But I think one of the challenges is people just are just misguided and miseducated. I don't know about you, but even when I was growing up, I learned quite a bit from my parents, but I believe my dad was trying to figure things out. My mom were trying to figure things out too as well. I mean, they just immigrated here from a different country,
Yeah.
like so, like let alone teach us everything, the
Hmm.
ins and outs of money.
Hmm.
They were trying to figure things out and create a pathway to this new life that they had, trying to raise, 3 kids and all that kind of stuff. So I think for most of us growing up, money wasn't really talked about.
Hmm.
It wasn't really, a lot of people didn't, it was kind of taboo, right? You don't talk about this, you don't talk about money on the kitchen table or whatever it may be. And I think that needs to change. Um, and So yeah, which I can get into. I know your question was like, what are the challenges that most people have when they sit down? And I think it's realizing that um, the money that most people are making might not be enough. And Great, because if you look at if you don't mind,
Yeah,
if
you
I,
go ahead.
yeah, if I take a little deeper dive on this, because
Mhm,
when you truly look at Canada right now,
mhm,
right, you can't, you can make the argument that Canada's not doing too well. I mean, you can be positive about it, right? But
mhm,
when you look at our economy
mhm,
from a bird's eye view,
mhm,
you can see some serious challenges there. And in order for typical Canadian, you mentioned a new era. In order for people to get ahead today, I truly do believe, working a 9 to 5 might be the thing. And I think having a business or having cash flow elsewhere, either that whether that be real estate investing, whether that be doing your own business, betting on yourself,
mhm,
I truly do believe that one of our main focuses as Canadians, at least, or people in America, should be how can I increase my cash flow? How can I increase my income? Because um, actually, if I have a couple stats here, where it talks about cost of living, and so this is one of the reasons why corporate Canada might not be the best because rate wages aren't keeping up with inflation.
mhm,
So then, Ryan, when I sit down with a family, and let's just say I can save them, I save them a bunch of money on their services, and we're able to find $200 a month to save. Right now, some would say, well, $200 is quite a bit of money. I can't even imagine saving $200 a month. Some people can say that, and then some people are on here being like $200 a month, man, I could do 500, right?
mhm,
But for most people, right, $200, right? There's actually an article saying that Canadians are $200 away from being broke.
mhm,
$200 being away from filing bankruptcy,
mhm,
right? So if you can find a family $200, it seems pretty good that they can save that. The challenge is that $200 might not be enough. I mean, it's going to be better than where they're currently at, but it might not be enough to live the lifestyle they want to live because the public enemy number one is inflation. And the challenge is in today's world is our wages aren't staying the same, aren't staying the same as inflation,
mhm.
right? So, when we look at it realistically, you can kind of realize that, if I'm stuck at a 9 to 5, I might not be able to get to where I want to go financially. That goal or dream that you had as in your 20s or 30s or 40s might seem more of a dream than an actual reality. And that's a challenge. So one of the things that I would highly encourage people to do is figure out how to increase their cash flow, because saving might not be enough.
Yeah, good point. So this might be a not necessarily a tricky question, but it might take a
Yeah,
little bit of a thinking on your end there, but you will
yeah,
be the
yeah,
best individual to respond to this question. So
yeah,
let's say somebody, is 20 years old, is approach you to put a plan together, right?
yeah.
Retirement plan, so to speak. And here in Canada, people live a long time, right? That shows that people live a long time. And let's say the person just is planning to do like a simple, vacation trip once a year or something like that. Between, I don't know, between 25 to $3,000, just like a trip, like a vacation trip kind of thing. Generally
Yeah,
speaking, this is just general information, obviously not cent by cent per se. How much do you think that
yeah.
they have to put aside for retirement in order for them to have a lifestyle based on what they want? They're 20 years old,
Um,
assuming they're in good health.
yeah. I mean, if I were to just off the top of my head,
Hmm, hmm,
if you're in your 20s and you could consistently save, I want to say anywhere from $250 to $300 a month,
hmm,
maybe a little bit more, and you can average roughly about a 9% investment, you'll be able to live, you'll be able to be okay at 65 for sure. You'll definitely have $1 million, probably even more than that, depending on what age you started at 20.
hmm.
And this is like a 9%. When I say investment, like I'm not saying by no means am I on here saying we can guarantee you a 9% rate of
Of course,
return.
of
That's not
course,
what I'm
of
saying.
course. Hmm, hmm,
But what I am saying is that there are safe investments out there that can average a great rate of return. And if you start early enough, saving, $200 to $300, $250 to $300 a month can get you to be okay at least at 65. Not living lavishly, not living like, crazy, but, based off the example that you told me, to live an average, okay, lifestyle,
Okay,
making
life.
sure,
Yeah. Hmm.
right? I would say that, that would be enough. And then, if you're in Canada, one of the accounts that get misused quite often is a tax-free savings account. I would put it in a tax-free savings account, which is obviously what we do, but you can put it in a tax-free savings account. It is the greatest investment account known to Canada, known to any Canadian, because all the money grows completely tax-free when you put it into it. So, by the time you're 65, if you have a lot of cash saved, that's all tax-free dollars that you can use and travel and do all those types of things that you want to do. So I hope that answers your question, but
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Good
yeah,
information here. So I'll
yeah.
pause you for a second. So, my dear fellow listeners and viewers, for those of you who have just tuned in, I just want to remind you that you're listening and watching the Dr. Narine Dat Show. Keep in mind there are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen. You can listen to us on the Rigel dial, that's radio 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers digital cable for those of you who have the Rogers digital box. And of course, we're also live streaming our interview here. So please take the opportunity to share our page. While we are at it, I want to give a special hello to Leon, who has been supporting this show since we started, which is awesome. Thank you so much for that. I want to give a special hello to John from Queens. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. Thanks for all that you do. I want to give a special hello to Andrew, a former villager of mine. Thank you so much, sir, for taking a sneak peek. Very much appreciated. Hope that you and the family are doing well. Harry, we've had you as well on the show as well. Thank you. Chandra, uh, uh, Navish, if I'm saying it correctly. Thank you. And obviously, I cannot see everybody here, but do know
Mhm.
that we appreciate all of you. Tonight, we have Brandon, who has many years of experience in the financial industry, so to speak. And so he's here to share that with us because he brought up something very interesting that I didn't thought of, Money is a universal language, we all want more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the reality is money is important because society is designed in a way that we have to have money to function, to move forward. And don't send me an email and say, hey, you keep talking about money. I get it, that
Mhm.
money is not everything. We get that. But the reality is money is extremely important, right? Without money, something we can't even have proper, we cannot do proper diet in terms of making sure that we're buying, good food and all that, right? So these are all important stuff. So Brandon, do know that we appreciate you joining us here. You're doing really great. So what would you say are some of the, I don't want to use the word excuses, but what are some of the things
Yeah.
people are saying to you in terms of, look, I'll get back to you tomorrow, kind of thing. Some people
Yeah.
probably already have stuff in place, like I have stuff in place and so forth. But let's say
Yeah.
somebody has absolutely nothing in place and they're not too sure because they don't have that knowledge, as you mentioned. When you were growing up, like it was not necessary conversation on that, on that kitchen table, so to speak, right? So what are some
Yeah.
of the things you're hearing? What do you think are some of the holdback? Because at the end of the day, if people are prepared for retirement, they wouldn't have any surprises. That I can tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point
Mm,
too as well, because it can range why
mhm,
people don't move forward.
mhm.
There could be many, many different reasons.
Absolutely.
I think maybe one could be, comfort, and um, in maybe knowing, you know, or being uncomfortable, not knowing what that money's going to do for them. Because we don't we don't necessarily. I think actually, erase that. I think this will probably be the biggest thing, especially in today's world. It is delayed gratification. One of the things that we've kind of got accustomed to is kind of like a microwave mentality. Now,
Mhm,
now, 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 now. We
mhm,
can we can instantly get anything we want, right? Like instantly right now. Like you want a hamburger, right? You can order it on Uber Eats. You want to watch a movie, you can hop on Netflix and watch a movie, right? You want
mhm,
to you want to get see your friends or talk to your friends, you can immediately call them immediately. Like everything is so instant in today's world, but what isn't instant is financial independence. That takes time. You
mhm,
can't put $500 in an account today and have $500,000 tomorrow, right? If you heard of
mhm.
something like that, Narayan, let me know.
Ooh.
Okay. Yeah. And that, we could do it together, right? So, but
Definitely.
until yeah, right. But until that exists,
Mhm,
right? We have to do things the traditional way. And I think what a lot of people don't see is they don't see the gratification of it. Well, if I start today, I gotta wait 20, 30 years to
mhm.
experience that
Yeah.
$100, right? And And at the end of the day, I think it's you know, a priority thing, right? Some people
Mm-hmm.
don't feel maybe it's a priority right now,
Mm-hmm.
and some people have a valid reason. You know, if you look at you really truly look at Canada, right? I mean, deaths are an all-time high. A lot of people are worried about money. The challenge is we're so worried about money that we overlook the fact that if we get better money conscious, that can actually solve it. So some people are kind of blurred by that. When it comes to that, they don't see that if they get their conscious around money, like more comfortable around it, they can really change that. You know, you brought something up there, um, of people saying, "Oh, why are you talking about money? Why are you talking about
Mm-hmm.
money?" You know, and you're right. Money isn't everything. It is, and I was always taught, you know, the love of money is
Mm-hmm.
evil,
Mm-hmm.
but money itself isn't evil. And all if you just one of the things I would do is, you know, we've all been taught. I grew up like this too as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have like you think about money in a negative way. And you know and I fight with myself every day to kind of be more positive and have a better relationship with money. You know, how can I develop this relationship with money? It's an ongoing thing, right? Just like with your friends or with
Mm-hmm.
your wife or whatever, right? If you don't nurture that relationship over time, you know, things can go south, right? Same thing with money, right? So it's a relationship that you're building every day, and you have kind of these obstacles in your mind about how you're thinking about money. So one thing I would think about is money is not evil, right? But money is a tool, right? And it's a tool to get the things you want to, right? So like when you have a screwdriver, right? You want to, you know, you want to have a hole with a screwdriver, right? With money, right? You want to use that money as a tool to ultimately get what you really want, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if it's a car, it's not money that you want, it's the car that you want,
That's
right?
right. Mm-hmm.
It's the trips you want to take, right? If it's 1 to 2 trips a year, like you mentioned before in that example, it's not the money that you want, it's the trip that you want. But in
Yeah.
order for you to take the trip, you need the money,
That's right.
right? So that's why kind of just you got to change the mindset around that. It's like, okay, I don't want money, but I want what money can do for me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and um, and I think you know, the other stigma that a lot of people have is like rich people are bad, right? Like rich and wealthy people are evil. I think people are evil, and if they get rich, they stay evil. And I think people are great and people are good. If they get rich, they stay good, right? So I don't think money doesn't make someone evil or make someone good. That person's just already good and they have money, and that person's already evil and they have money, if you know what I mean. So. Um, yeah, I would think, you know, just looping back to your question, I know
Mm-hmm.
I went off there, but I think the biggest thing would be delayed gratification. A lot of people like to delay things these days. Unfortunately, some things we can't.
Yeah, a good point there, Brandon. So
Yeah.
there are two things I want you to comment on. Obviously, we'll live in a digital world, and
Yeah.
you've kind of mentioned it in a different way. So if we're buying things or when we're buying things, we're just using the plastic. We're swiping that credit card, all of these things because it's easy to do, right? We just tap it. As you know,
Yeah.
you can have the app now on your phone, and I see a lot of
Yeah.
kids, teenager, they have it now, things like that. So they don't even carry the plastic anymore. They use their phone. That's one
Yeah.
issue I'm seeing. I want you to comment on that, but I also want you to comment on spending habits.
Mhm.
People buy, and not that people can't if they can afford it, that's awesome. But sometimes people
Yeah.
will say, for example, and I'm sure this wouldn't be of surprise to you. People will probably say to you, "Look, I can't afford to set aside savings right now
Yeah.
because I cannot even afford to live." But those same people are probably buying, sandwiches every day outside,
Yeah.
the burger, or they're
Uh-huh.
smoking, and all of these kind of thing. Not that we are condemning anybody based on their choices, but I'm just giving
For
you a
sure.
reality example. Comment on
Yeah.
those two for me if you don't mind, because you have
Yeah.
that knowledge to kind of respond back.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing about the card, I mean, like that's everybody's you know, everybody's kind of worry, you know, because it's a lot easier to spend it on the card than it is to physically take the money out of your wallet and spend something, right? There's some psychology behind that when it comes to the card. I would just say, you know, keep your cards keep your cards simple. Right. If obviously if you're building credit in Canada, the more credit you have, obviously the credit is better. And just build your discipline, right? And that's part of the relationship with money. Just build your discipline around when to use the debit, when to use the credit,
Mhm.
and then stick to that kind of game plan. I'm going to use my debit for these types of purchases. I'm going to use my credit for these types of purchases, and then kind of stick with that game plan. And then obviously have a game plan to pay off your credit card or whatever it may be. And then when it comes down to, you know, well, people say I don't have enough money to save, and then they buy a sandwich or they're walking around with a new iPhone or whatever,
Mhm.
whatever it may be. Once again, it comes down to priorities, and that's the process we kind of take. When I sit down with an individual or with a family, is one of the main things that we focus is just try to put those things in perspective, and realize that earlier I said anyone can become a millionaire, and the first step to that is kind of having a perspective of, okay, what is going in and what is going out, right? But at the end of the day, it just comes down to priorities. And I would, if you're if sometimes you can't fix that, right? So people think, oh, well, you know what? I don't have money to save, but I'll buy a Tim Hortons coffee every day. Sometimes you can't. There's no. You can't fix uh, that way of thinking. But what I would encourage people to do is really truly take a bird's eye view of what's going in, what's going out, and then if you loop back to what I said earlier, is what if I treated myself like a phone bill? What if I treated myself like a bill? Where maybe I can still dedicate some money to my future stuff and still buy the Tim Hortons every day. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe I don't need the new iPhone. Speaking of which, one of the things I would do to battle or delayed gratification, and by the way, just because I've been in the industry for quite some, like
Mhm.
7 years, just because I've been in the industry and I know these things, by no means does that mean that I'm cured
Mhm.
from the to have gratification right away. More than anybody, I deal with delaying my gratification as much as I can. I'm a big cell phone guy. I love iPhones, right? I just want, as soon as the iPhone comes out, I really want to get it. And I've been good. I have the iPhone 13 Pro. So I'm doing okay. I know they're up to, what are they, up to 16, 17 now, right? So I'm doing pretty good, right? I'm doing now this September, the phone might come out. I
There you
really
go.
might want it, right? So I think delayed gratification, one thing to battle that is if you want to make a purchase that you don't know, and you want to kind of make that your hand is itching a little, and you want to make a purchase, I would say take 1 or 2 days, wait 1 or 2 days, and really think about that purchase first. Do I really need it? What value would it bring in my life? Those types of things I want to kind of, and then after those 2 days, if you're like, you know what, I still want to purchase this, I would ask myself, okay, can I buy this times two? So if I'm making a purchase for an iPhone, okay, and I'm getting it into a contract or whatever, whether it's monthly or let's just say an iPhone's like $1,300. So if I have $1,300, can I spend $2,600 and buy the same phone? What if I double the price? Can I still purchase it without worrying too much about my financial situation? That would be kind of the approach I would take. I would say take 1 to 2 days, and at the end, if I can purchase it twice, then maybe I'm in a good financial spot. But if I'm not, then maybe you can pass. Maybe you can pass. And I think one of the biggest things also um is just making sure that you take that mental note of doing it, right? So
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you so much for that response. How would people who have like major expenses? Obviously, we have people have regular expenses, right? Things
Hmm.
that you already talked about, like the phone bill and the light bill and gas. Those are regular bills. Those things keep coming, right?
Yeah.
They have to live and eat and so forth. But how would people who actually still have like a mortgage, for example, and whatnot, and they're thinking to themselves, because their mentality might be different than a financial expert, let's say. So they might say, look, my main goal right now is to pay off, my mortgage, so that way I can focus on other things, whatever
Yeah.
that may be. What suggestion do you have for folks who have those major expenses and don't have, let's say a retirement plan in place because they're thinking, hey, it's probably best to wait until they're done. I think that will be, um, it will be good for you to respond based on your expertise, right? Because I'm
Right.
not an expert in the financial piece, but if you can comment on that, that's going to be very helpful to the viewers and the listeners.
Yeah, for sure. So two things I would say about that is one, by focusing on with by focusing on paying off debts like a mortgage first before you start creating a retirement plan. Is that kind of the question that
Yep,
you're
yep,
kind of, yeah,
absolutely.
okay.
Yep, you
Okay,
got
gotcha.
it.
Okay.
Yep.
So just clarify. Okay.
Hmm.
So, one thing I would say about that is, like I mentioned before, that one of the biggest things you have to creating wealth is time. And the more time you spend on focusing all on one thing while not doing the other, could definitely hurt you financially. Saving, if you're 40 and you want to save money, you want to save $1 million by the time you're 65, it's going to be a lot less, obviously, right? But if you wait 5 years, even 5 years, the amount of money you need to save compared to at 40 is going to be dramatically different, dramatically higher. So just waiting can hurt you, which is why I suggest just because you're focusing on one doesn't mean you can't do the other. And I think many people are capable of doing that. They just have to really look at their situation and see if how they're able to do it. Um, um, it's not a matter of if or if they can. It's just a matter of how. No, I think most people can do that. The other thing I would say, the second
Hmm.
thing
Hmm.
is increasing your cash flow. And I talked about this a little, but when we look at the expenses in today's economy, everything comes out residually, right? Right? Like if you do pre-authorized payments, or if you do or if you work a job, right? The government gets their money first, right? As
Oh
soon
yeah.
before you get your paycheck, before you get their paycheck, they get theirs first. Even before you get it, right? The mortgage comes out monthly, the Disney Plus comes out monthly, the hydro bill comes out monthly. So you have all these residual bills. The challenge is most of us are paying residual bills with linear income. We have a 9 to 5 job, and we trade time for money. So when I go to work, right, and I go to work, I get paid. If I don't go to work, I don't get paid. So that's a linear way of making money. I go to work, I get paid. If I don't go to work, I don't get paid. The challenge is regardless if I work or not, my bills come in residually.
Yeah.
And I have no way of making residual income at my current job, which is why I encourage people to look for ways to make money. Here's just a few stats that I just ran,
Hmm.
okay?
Hmm.
So why corporate Canada or corporate America or even corporate Guyana, right?
Hmm.
All
Hmm.
the people in Guyana who are watching this, learn how to start a business. Okay, it's
That's
the
right.
greatest thing. And I heard Guyana is booming, and
Booming.
there's
Yeah.
tons of opportunity out there. I would just take that bull by the horn and just do as much things possible in that country, because I know it's doing well. But just a few things why corporate Canada isn't enough to do the things you want to do. Once again, I talked about wages aren't keeping up with inflation, but there's a high tax burden, right? If you're a corporate employee, the more money you make, the more money you get taxed. There's absolutely no tax advantage for being an employee. But as a business owner, even if you're self-employed and still working a 9 to 5, there's huge tax benefits just in that area alone. No job security. We all know with if you heard about tariffs, stuff like that, people are worried about job security.
Hmm.
Pensions and benefits is like a foreign language today. I don't think many people have pensions, right? And if you do, right, you're probably working for, some sort of government funded
Hmm.
thing. But pensions are like, they don't really get uh offered much. And then the retirement timeline is too long. Waiting until 65. A lot of people want to retire early. And yeah, although we're living longer today. But we also want to be younger to do all the things that we want to do. And the only way to really solve this, Narayan, is like finding ways to make extra income. And I'm not saying find another part-time job. What I am saying is bet on yourself. Find out a way where you could be a creative person,
Hmm.
right? We're all creative. We're all
Hmm.
creative human beings, right? This show, absolute like incredible. Like Narayan, you're a genius for creating this platform, right? That takes creation. We're all like that. We're
Hmm.
all, creative human beings. So we all have that kind of like that inner creator that we can create something, and then we can go and become self-reliant, self-sufficient. And if we can do that, if we can explore that area while keeping our 9 to 5, instead of having residual bills and linear income, we can start to have residual bills and residual income. Because if we can teach ourselves how to create passive cash flow, then we can start living a lifestyle that we want to live. Because money is good, right? What you talked
Hmm.
about, but time is even better. And I was taught, on your deathbed, on your deathbed, would you be asking for more money or more time?
Yeah.
Most people will be asking for more time, which means time is more valuable than money. So if you can find out how to make money while you're sleeping, right? That gives you, in a sense, more time, and you can use that time because all of us have the same amount of time in a day. But if you can buy back your time from corporate Canada, you're going to put yourself in a better position anyway. And those expenses that you were talking about earlier, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about your mortgage or your bills if you found a way to become self-sufficient and make a residual passive income by building a business or betting on yourself. So that's what I would say to that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brandon. I just wanted to
Yeah.
comment on a few things based on what people are saying here, if that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, yeah, for sure.
Um, So Lee Ne, who has been a supporter of our show, even our previous show, Let's Chit Chat with Narine. So thank you, Lee, for
Okay.
tuning in here. She brought a good point here. She said even if people are doing two jobs but don't know how to save it, that can create some unexpected problems, right? So it's not always how much you work as well, too. You really have to make sure you plan accordingly and you're saving accordingly and
Yeah.
whatnot. I want to give a special hello to Mr. Nice Vibes. That's his stage name. He's gonna be here
Hmm.
live a week from now. We are gonna interview him. He's a very talented individual from Trinidad and Tobago. We're gonna have him on here, and we have a surprise for you as well, too, Mr. Nice Vibes. So make sure you do whatever you need to do to make it possible so that you join us live here for us to interview you a week from now, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard, Ontario, New York, Trinidad time, right? So we look forward to see you for sure. John, who we've had here, he mentioned that he had two jobs before. Keep in mind that I mean, you will notice, Brandon. Yes, we are all creative and so forth, but not everybody is, not everyone is like a risk taker, so to speak. You really have
Hmm.
to get out of your comfort zone to try
Hmm.
different things. I tried many things myself over the years.
Yeah.
Because for me, it gives me a sense of satisfaction that I have tried, and that's not for me, for example, right? Things of that
Yeah.
sort.
For sure.
And so now I'm, that better version of me, so to speak. But I've tried a lot of different things. But I'm a business mindset individual. I always think, what's next for me? How do I make more money? But that's not something I put on social media. Like that's my private life kind of thing. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? So, but I think it's
Hmm.
important,
For sure.
um, because you brought up such a great point, and this has nothing to do with greed, folks who are watching there, because
Hmm.
people know that I always put people before profit, really, meaning that if somebody's dying and if I can help them, without them paying me, like I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
what I meant by that. But that doesn't mean I'm not thinking, how can I make more money and so forth. I think you really have to have that kind of mindset though, right? And you really have to put
Yep.
in the work as well too. You really have to kind of sacrifice things at times, but once you build a good foundation, you'll be amazed to know how things can work in your favor. I've seen many people, there are many people in my circle who started off from scratch doing their own individual business. And I've
Yeah.
seen them grown, like, and speaking of traveling and making money while you're sleeping, I've seen those folks, they're doing that as we
Hmm.
speak. As we're talking here, they're making
Yeah.
money, right? So it is great. So what I'll do, I'll give you the opportunity to share any important points you think
Yeah.
necessary to our viewers and listeners. But
Okay.
and after that, I want you to share information as to how people can get a hold of you. Let's
For
say we
sure.
finish here and people want some sort of specific information in terms of wanting more. Maybe people always wanted to put a plan in place, but they
Yeah.
put it on hold and now they're watching and listening and they're thinking, oh my goodness. Now is the time because honestly, for me, the best time to do anything is now, like as you would know, right? Like
For
not
sure.
tomorrow, right? Like now, so to speak, right? So
Yeah.
share any important information that you want to share, and then
Yeah.
I'll get you to share those specific information in terms of how people can get a hold of you.
Okay, sweet. So, just to circle back. So, sorry, you had some people comment on a few on. Sorry, can you just say their comment again? Sorry, I just wanted to
No,
hear
no,
that
like
one more
well,
time.
like one lady was saying here that sometimes people can do two jobs, but yet they're running into financial problem. I guess what she's
Yeah,
trying to say here is if people don't have a plan in place, right, or not saving accordingly, it
yeah.
probably would make a difference, right?
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, one thing, like, if I understand that comment correctly, you know, if you do have two jobs, kudos to you. I think you're a workhorse and you're absolutely working extremely hard. Many people don't do that, so the fact that you do that is absolutely tremendous. And you know, if you know, I would look at or mention if anybody's in that situation and you feel like it's still tough to save money. You know, once again, just take a bird's eye view, what's going in, what's going out, and see if you can make some changes when it comes to that. But sometimes I did mention before, you know, having two jobs might not be beneficial, especially wherever you're located, right? Because once again, if you're an employee, the more money you make, the more money you're getting taxed. So the more hours you're working at a 9 to 5, that can actually technically kind of hurt you. And if you're not putting a plan in place, there's some tax strategies or tax accounts that you can put in place that actually help you reduce it as an employee. So I would definitely explore those two as well. But it's really just a matter of what's going in and what's going out. And then you did mention also you know, to be in business or to be creative, right?
Hmm.
You have to get outside your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, you know, anything that I mentioned is not easy, right? I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm not saying
Hmm.
it's going to be easy for
Hmm.
you to go find out how to be creative or how to do these things. And it's definitely going to be uncomfortable. The question I ask myself on a daily basis whenever I pursued business or I
Hmm.
pursued not going with the traditional 9 to 5 or whatever it may
Hmm.
be, and why I decided is, you know, what is truly on the line for me, you
Hmm.
know, when I'm making these decisions, and what would be you know, worth it for me to get uncomfortable for that, right? Because you know, really, when we look at it at the end of the day, what is on the line? Our life, you know, our
Hmm.
future self, you know, the way we want to live. You know, like if you look at the stats here, poverty has actually increased in Canada year over year, right? So like, you know, what is truly on the line if I don't bet on myself, if I don't become uncomfortable, if I just continue to doing the way that the things that we were taught. And I'm not saying this for everybody. Everybody can become, it depends on the lifestyle you want to live. But if you
Hmm.
want to live the lifestyle truly that you want to live, and it's kind of like out there, and it's not doable with a 9 to 5, then you have to be willing to become uncomfortable, because at the end of the day, your future lifestyle is at the end of the road. So that I'll end that with that. But a few points that I want to mention, and I'll see if what information I could share that you guys can get a hold of me if you'd like to. But just a few stats here why I think if you're listening to this, the one thing I would do is find out how you can start exploring the journey of becoming more money conscious. There's tons of books out there. There's tons of literature out there. There's tons of YouTubes on there. Right? Just follow Narine. You can follow Narine, and all his posts and his status is good enough to start thinking about money differently, because when you look at the stats, it really shows that we have to become money conscious. So I will just go through a few things here in Canada. In America or Guyana, I don't know what it's like, but it says 44% of Canadians say money is their top source of stress, which is up from 2022. Nearly half of Canadians lose sleep due to financial worries. 50% of Canadians, one third of Canadians run short of money by the end of each month. 28% of Canadians report mental health symptoms that affecting daily life because of money. 73% of Canadians without financial stress feel hopeful about the future, compared to only 35% of those who have high financial stress. So if you have less financial stress, the future to you looks very bright. But you have more financial stress, which is more being better money conscious, means you have a dimmer look on the future. says 95% of employees say finances are impacting their well-being. 95%.
Mhm.
37% say financial pressure prevents them from prioritizing their health. 37, nearly 40% of people are saying that it's affecting their health. So
Mhm.
just when you think about truly about money, when it really comes down to it, money's not everything, but money is most things. And because money is a tool that's being used on a daily basis, if we don't start thinking differently about money, unfortunately, we might not be able to do the things that we truly want to do. So I think it starts there. Before you put a plan in place, before you do anything, just be more comfortable and start nurturing your relationship with money. The best ways to kind of get a hold of me, I don't know if I can share my phone number on here. My
Yes, yeah,
phone number,
yes, yeah. Go ahead. You go ahead.
but
I
yeah,
give you permission to do that. Go ahead.
yeah, my phone number is 519-841-0001. It's also on my Facebook profile. You can follow me there. I'm also on Instagram. If people are on Instagram, you can find me there too as well. But yeah, I mean, you can message me on Facebook or whatever if you have more questions or you have more input. Or if you're like, Brandon, I didn't like what you said on the show, and I can clarify it for you. I don't mind doing that too as well. I'm always open for a discussion and a conversation and hearing people's different perspectives and how I can relate to that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Really do appreciate you allowing me to do this. I think it's just tremendous what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what is it, Mr. Vibes, Dr. Vibes, who we seeing next week.
Mr. Nice Vibes. He's a performer. Yeah, that's his stage
Sweet,
name, but
that's
his
cool.
his name is Kumar, but he goes by that
Awesome,
stage name. And so I know
awesome.
you mentioned a bunch of books, but I also want to share with folks that I have the Rising Above, the book that I wrote. It's a beautiful book. I want people to keep that in mind. It's available worldwide, Amazon and elsewhere. You can get it on Amazon if you so choose, but I don't recommend it because Amazon is already, it's
Mm.
already a big company. Try your best to get it elsewhere. But if Amazon is your thing, that's okay too. So don't get me wrong at all. If you live here locally in Canada, you can get it through different websites and so forth. But while I'm only talking about this because Brandon gave a list of beautiful book, and I also want to let Brandon, hey, we have another book here, Rising Above. And the point of this book that I wrote here is that regardless of what challenges people go through in life, you can still rise above if you have a plan in place. And earlier today, Brandon talked about the importance of having a financial plan in place. He talked about that none of us are too young or too old to really get started. And one thing I can say openly here is that I've known Brandon for many, many years. When he was a younger individual, as I mentioned, he performed on our Caribbean Dreams concert. I know the parents, I know the father and whatnot. And when you're doing business with people, you have to do business with the right people. And people like Brandon, they're genuine people, right? And so I'm recommending Brandon if you're looking for any sort of, financial advice, like he will be the guy for things of that sort. And if he doesn't know, then he will guide you, guide you in the right path. But this will be a good first step here, that's for sure. You can find him once if worst come to worst, you can't remember what he said, like you can Google him along and I'm sure he's gonna pop up somewhere and because he is on social media, so that's not an issue. If you have family and so forth, sometimes not everybody share their personal story and they don't have to, but if you realize that, hey, you know what, look, they can benefit from this. And keep in mind when it comes to financial stuff, it is not an overnight thing. This is you planning for your future. Nobody knows what our future holds in terms of our physical health, all of that. Sometimes people, they have to really do a lot of things on their own and they rely on that extra saving, right? Not everybody has support from family and kids and all that. This is reality stuff that we see and we hear of every day. So this is a chance for you to put yourself first, as you will hear me talk. It's so important for us to put ourselves first. And this is a good way, Brandon, for us to do it, right? Have a
Yeah,
financial
awesome.
plan. I think this is awesome. So I
Yeah,
want you to know, Brandon, I'll call you after the show, but I
for
want
sure.
you to know that I appreciate you joining us today. Lots of rich information, lots of important information. You keep up that good work, and we'll stay in touch. Do know that we really appreciate you. All
Absolutely.
right. So, my dear
Appreciate
fellow
that.
listeners and viewers, as we are officially approaching the end of tonight's program, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for tuning into the Dr. Narine Dat Show. On behalf of myself and my guest here, Brandon, both of us would like to join together and wish you a great today and even better tomorrow. And please do tune in next week, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we're going to have another special guest, Mr. Nice Vibes. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you then. All right. Hey, folks.